Dragon Emperor Sun Chapter 511 to Chapter 520. The wild wolf's face turned cold, he suddenly retracted his fist, and said coldly, "Boy, if you think I only have this ability, then you are wrong." "Uncle Wolf, what's going on?" Qin Feng asked with a puzzled expression. "I only used 3 points of strength, just this small hotel. If I use all my strength, this hotel is afraid that it will collapse. What if I break the little beauty?" The wild wolf gave Gulinger a wretched look, and licked his lips, making Gulinger tremble with anger. Qin Feng breathed a sigh of relief. It turned out to be the case. If even a great master couldn't do anything to David, then David would be too terrifying. "Don't say I don't give you a chance, let's go out and fight." After David finished speaking, he picked up Gulinger and jumped down from the window. After gently landing, David's figure instantly disappeared into the darkness. "Damn, I want to run." The wild wolf reacted, cursed angrily, and immediately chased after him. Uncle Wolf, Qin Feng endured the severe pain and could only keep up with all his might. Every time he took a step, it brought heart-piercing pain, but Qin Feng couldn't care about this. Otherwise, if David killed the carbine, he would not be able to beat David. Gulinger was in David's arms, feeling the wind whistling in his ears, closed his eyes tightly, and put his arms around David's neck, feeling an unprecedented sense of security in his heart. David jumped into an open space and hurriedly put Gulinger down. If he held him for a while, David was really afraid that he couldn't bear it anymore. A normal man, how can David stand it? The wild wolf who was chasing later saw David stop, and then smiled coldly, "Boy, you really have the guts, I thought you were going to escape." "Escape? You are not dead yet, how could I escape?" "Okay, it's been a long time since I met such a stubborn person. Today I will surely convince you." The wild wolf was repeatedly challenged by David, and the fighting spirit was aroused all over his body. "Didn't you just say that your punch only used 3 points of force? Now it's flat here, I'll let you punch again, try with all your strength, but I can tell you that you only have 1 punch chance. If you can't knock me down with 1 punch, I'll punch you too." David smiled lightly. "Ha ha ha, boy, do you know what you're talking about? Let me punch you? Do you know how powerful my punch is?" The wild wolf laughed loudly, and then suddenly punched the ground. Rumbling. The earth trembled for a while, and then a large pit with a diameter of nearly 1 meter and a depth of more than half a meter appeared. The wild wolf looked at David proudly, he believed that David would be too frightened to brag when he saw the power of his punch. "It's just that, I'm not moving, you attack." David just glanced at it casually and said calmly. The wolf was stunned for a moment, and then his face became gloomy. "Boy, since you are courting death, then I will fulfill you." "David, are you stupid? Why did you let him punch you? Are you dying?" Gulinger looked at David in shock and asked loudly. "Don't worry about it." David told Gulinger to leave it alone. The reason why David did this was because he had absolute confidence. He just wanted to test his strength on the 5th floor of the foundation building, how strong his body was. Gulinger stared at David, but didn't know how to persuade him. "Uncle Wolf, kill him, let him pretend, and punch him." At this time, Qin Feng was long in coming and walked all the way, bleeding all the way, and the entire pants were soaked with blood. No need for Qin Feng to say that the wild wolf will not keep his hand. "I saw," the wild wolf shouted loudly, and the huge fist was wrapped in a faint mist. This was a leak of energy. It seemed that the wild wolf really used all his strength. "Go to H3LL." The wild wolf's fist smashed at David with a sound of breaking the air. Boom! After a loud bang, the sky was full of dust, David's body shook slightly, and he couldn't help but take a step back. And the wild wolf only felt a huge anti-shock force hit, and then the whole arm went numb, and the whole person also took a dozen steps back, and then he stabilized his figure. How is it possible? It's impossible. The wild wolf was shocked, he couldn't believe everything in front of him, and Qin Feng was also stupid, he didn't believe that the wild wolf didn't use all his strength this time. David felt the faint pain in his abdomen, shook his head slightly, and seemed not very satisfied with his body. Now it's my turn to punch. David looked at the wild wolf and said slowly. The wild wolf was startled, and his body slowly took 2 steps back. He was already in the mood to retreat. With that punch, he almost used all his strength, but it did not cause any damage to David, which made the wild wolf suddenly back off. Qin Feng also saw the wild wolf's intention, and immediately said, "Uncle Wolf, you can't leave me alone. Qin Feng is now injured and can't run away. If the wild wolf dares not to him, then he will be dead." The wild wolf glared at Qin Feng fiercely. He originally wanted to run away secretly, but now Qin Feng said it and pointed it out. "Qin Feng, don't blame Uncle Lang, this kid is too strong, if he dares to kill you, I will definitely bring the Qin family back for revenge." The wild wolf said to Qin Feng. "No, Uncle Wolf, don't leave me." Qin Feng hurriedly ran towards the wild wolf. The wild wolf didn't care, turned around and jumped up, escaping in the distance. "Humph, did I let you run away?" The corner of David's mouth twitched, and the whole person disappeared in an instant, only to see a figure chasing after him. "What?" After a while, a scream came, followed by a black shadow falling from the sky, and then smashed into the ground. Qin Feng looked at it and found that it was the wild wolf who smashed into the ground. At this time, the 7 orifices of the wild wolf were bleeding and already dead. Qin Feng was so scared that he directly wet his pants. The blood and water mixed with urine made Qin Feng's wound even more painful, but he didn't dare to shout. "Chen, Mr. Chen!" Qin Feng knelt in front of David, and begged for mercy in a cold sweat, "Please let me go, please, I am willing to be a cow and a horse for you." Qin Feng never thought that David, a young man in his early 20s, would have such profound strength. "Be a cow and a horse for me." David looked at Qin Feng with a stern expression, "Are you worthy of this?" Qin Feng looked embarrassed, but quickly turned his eyes to Gu Linger. "Linger, save me, please save me, for the sake of our love." "Shut up!" Gu Linger angrily stepped forward, and then slapped Qin Feng in the face with a slap in the face. "Linger, I was wrong, I was really wrong, please help me, I'm not human, I'm not human." Qin Feng slapped himself desperately. Gu Linger looked at Qin Feng with angry eyes, and her whole body was trembling slightly. "How about you do it yourself?" David looked at Gu Linger and said. "It is good." Gu Linger slapped Qin Feng's head with a palm. "Linger, don't." Qin Feng still wanted to say something, but it was already too late. Gu Linger slapped his head on his head, directly smashing Qin Feng's head. How can Gu Linger be a warrior? There is still some power. Blood splattered all over Gu Linger. Looking at Gu Linger's murderous appearance, David couldn't help shaking. He didn't expect a woman to be ruthless, it was still very scary. "Am I scary?" Gu Linger looked at David looking at her and asked strangely. "It's not scary," David hurriedly shook his head. "Let's go." Gu Linger turned around and left, without even looking at Qin Feng's body, she no longer had this person in her heart. But Gu Linger just took 2 steps when suddenly she stepped on the sheet, and then staggered and almost didn't fall down. Fortunately, Gu Linger's skills were still agile, and she stood firm after a somersault. But this time, the sheets fell off. At this time, Gu Linger was only wearing underwear and was exposed in front of David. The bright moonlight sprinkled on Gu Linger's body, making Gu Linger's skin more fair. Crystal clear. That graceful figure is like a fairy from heaven and earth, and David was stunned after only one look. Gu Linger also felt the difference, and suddenly looked at David, and then blushed. "Close your eyes, you rascal." Gu Linger hurriedly wrapped the sheets around her body, not to mention how embarrassing it was. David also hurriedly turned around. I didn't do it on purpose, you ripped off the sheets yourself, it has nothing to do with me. Still sophistry. Gulinger glared at David, I tell you, after you go back, you are not allowed to tell anyone. Don't say, don't say. David quickly shook his head. After David followed Gulinger back, Sonia was always worried, walking around the room anxiously waiting for news. Seeing that Gulinger and David were back, and Gulinger was still wrapped in the sheets, looking in a state of embarrassment, after seeing Sonia, Gulinger ran back to her room to change clothes. David, are you all right? Sonia asked with concern. It's okay, David shook his head. What about Linger? Is Linger okay? Sonia continued to ask. I don't know either, just ask yourself. David shrugged. Sonia could only go into the room and ask Gulinger in person. As soon as she walked into the room, she saw Gulinger changed her clothes and was standing at the window looking out the window. There was a rush of water in the bathroom. Gulinger didn't look back when she heard someone coming in. She knew that it was Sonia who came in. At this time, Gulinger was a little afraid to see Sonia in her heart, because just when she was in David's arms, she actually had some feelings for David. She was tempted, if David wanted her at that time, she believed that she would not refuse. This is the husband of his good friend, how can he have such an idea? Sonia looked at Gulinger like that, and her face suddenly felt distressed. She thought that Gulinger had already been poisoned by Qin Feng, so she became afraid to see herself. Linger, it's all right, take a hot bath and sleep peacefully, everything is over, now there are a few girls in this society who are still complete, you don't need to care too much, even if you are not complete now, relying on you with his beauty and strength, he can still find a good man. Sonia comforted Gulinger in a low voice, what's the matter, and me, don't think about it, don't do stupid things. What did you say? Gulinger couldn't listen anymore, looked back at Sonia and said, then Qin Feng didn't do anything to me, he just took off my clothes. Before it was too late, David arrived. Oh, that's good. Sonia breathed a sigh of relief when she heard it. If Gulinger is fine, then everything will be fine. Wait a minute, Sonia was stunned, you said you were stripped naked, didn't David see you all? Gulinger blushed. She didn't expect that she would say something wrong, so she hurriedly explained, no, I was still wearing clothes. Oh. Sonia nodded and smiled, if David sees you, I will let him be responsible for you. What nonsense are you talking about, I don't need him to be responsible. Gulinger said with a blushing face. Ha ha ha, I'm just kidding you, if we two serve him together, it won't kill him. Sonia laughed. Sonia, you play with me, see if I don't clean you up. Gulinger rushed towards Sonia. Soon, the sound of Gulinger and Sonia joking and laughing came from the room. David in the living room, listening to the slapstick in the room, did not understand, the woman is too fickle. After shaking his head, David went back to the room to sleep. The next day, David, relying on his own spiritual power, helped Lin Tianhe break through the realm of a master, which made Lin Tianhe be grateful to David and even more loyal. Because of killing Qin Feng, David was afraid of the Qin family's retaliation, so he did not go to Suanya Valley, but stayed in the provincial capital for a few days. These days, he has been guiding Lin Tianhe and Qi Feng to practice the exercises. Thousands of kilometers away in Kyoto, Qin Feng's body was lying in the lobby of Qin's house. Because his head was blown up, he made a fake head and placed it there. Are you too convinced that Qin Feng and Yelang were killed by that David? Didn't anyone else help? Qin Feng's third uncle, Qin Xiaotian, asked the two masters of the Qin family. These two people followed Qin Feng to Jiangbei. They were seriously injured by Bai Zhantang at the time, and the remaining two stayed at the hotel to take care of them. Later, seeing that Qin Feng and the wolf hadn't come back all night, the two went out to search and found the bodies of Qin Feng and the wolf in an open space. So the two brought Qin Feng's body back. Third Master, we didn't see it with our own eyes, we weren't there at the time. One of the Qin family masters said. Although we didn't see David kill the eldest young master with our own eyes, when the eldest young master was kicked out by David, we were there, and the wild wolf was there, and we didn't have time to stop it. Another Qin family master said with a trembling body. Qin Xiaoshan's face was extremely gloomy. Now his eldest brother is in seclusion and handing over family affairs to him, but when such a thing happens, he can't explain it to his eldest brother. You two are useless, if that's the case, then go with my nephew. After Qin Xiaotian finished speaking, he waved his hands suddenly, and the two Qin family masters flew out and fell heavily on the ground, without breath. Seeing this, the housekeeper of the Qin family immediately waved his hand, and someone carried the two corpses out. David, I'm going to tear you into pieces to avenge my nephew. Qin Xiaotian shouted loudly, and the entire Qin family was filled with a bloodthirsty murderous aura. Third Master, we should discuss this matter from a long-term perspective. I don't think a hairy boy has such great ability and courage to kill the eldest young master. I suspect that some of them are deliberately targeting my Qin family. The wolf is the strength of a great master, how could a hairy child in his 20s kill him? The housekeeper walked to Qin Xiaoshan's side and carefully persuaded him. What do you mean? Qin Xiaotian frowned. Third Master, think about it, that Bai Zhantang actually fought with the eldest young master for this David at that time, so there must be something tricky about the Bai family following this David, and the one who killed the eldest young master and the wolf is not necessarily the one that David, and possibly a member of the Bai family, must know that there are many great masters of the Bai family. The butler analyzed. The Bai family. Qin Xiaoshan's eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. For so many years, we and the Bai family have never violated the well water, even if the girl from the Bai family and Qin Feng regretted their marriage, my Qin family didn't say anything. They are looking at my Qin family being bullied. Third Master, I think this matter should wait for the master to leave the customs, and then after the eldest young master is buried, after the long-term discussion, if it really involves the Bai family, it will not be easy. The housekeeper continued to persuade Qin Xiaotian. Qin Xiaotian nodded, well, if it really has something to do with the Bai family, even if they fight to death, they will avenge Qin Feng. Jiangbei provincial capital. David stayed for 6 or 7 days without seeing the Qin family to take revenge, which made him a little irritable, and he couldn't wait passively. Originally, he planned to let Bai Zhantang take him to Suanya Valley for a circle, but now it was delayed because of Qin Feng's affairs. On this day, David was instructing Lin Tianhu and Chi Feng to practice the exercises, and a guard ran in. Mr. Chen, Pavilion Master Li of the Dharma Protector Pavilion asks to see you. The guard said to David. Li Xiaoyi? What is he looking for from me? David was stunned. Since he rejected Li Xiaoyi's invitation to join the law enforcement pavilion last time, Li Xiaoyi has never looked for him. Let him get me in the living room, I'll be there in a minute. After David finished speaking, he looked at Lin Tianhu and Chi Feng and said, you two should practice against each other, don't be afraid of getting hurt, real strength comes from actual combat. Got it. Lin Tianhu and Chi Feng nodded. When David returned to the living room, Li Xiaoyi was sitting on the sofa waiting for David. Seeing that David was back, Li Xiaoyi hurriedly got up. Mr. Chen, take the liberty to interrupt. Master Li, you're welcome, what's the matter? David smiled lightly. There is a big man who wants to meet Mr. Chen. He is at the West Street Tea House. I hope Mr. Chen will appreciate his face. Li Xiaoyi said politely. David was stunned for a moment. The person who can get Li Xiaoyi to invite him must have a lot of power, and this Li Xiaoyi is talking about a big man, and it seems that he is in the officialdom just like Li Xiaoyi. David doesn't like to deal with them very much, and he won't join them, because there are too many restraints, which will limit a lot of David's freedom. Li Pavilion Master, I'm really sorry, I have something to do right now, I can't get away. David politely shied away. When will Mr. Chen have time? Li Xiaoyi asked reluctantly. I haven't had time in the last few days. David said. I don't have time for the last few days. Li Xiaoyi immediately understood that David was just looking for an excuse to shirk and not go to meet. Mr. Chen, this is a big man. It can be said that he can cover the sky with one hand. Li Xiaoyi aggravated his tone. David smiled lightly, I'm sorry, what a great person, I don't have time, if Pavilion Master Li has nothing else to do, I won't give it away. Mr. Chen, this is a big man from Kyoto, you must think clearly. Li Xiaoyi frowned, and his face became a little unsightly. If David doesn't give himself face, it doesn't matter, this is a big man from Kyoto, and no one can afford to provoke an existence, David doesn't even give face. See a visitor out. David also put away his smile and shouted directly. Li Xiaoyi actually threatened him? What David is not afraid of the most is threats. Even if it is a big man from Kyoto, what can he do? If David does not want to see it, he will disappear. You, Li Xiaoyi's face flushed red, and in the end he had no choice but to sigh and leave. In the West Street tea house, a middle-aged man with a Chinese face was sipping tea carefully, and behind him stood a young man with a straight body and short hair, who looked very capable. Little Li, how old are you this year? The middle-aged man said suddenly. Back to the pavilion, I am 25 this year. The young man said loudly without looking sideways. Well, about the same age as him, they are both young and promising, it's better to be young. A bit of envy flashed in the eyes of the middle-aged man with the Chinese character face. At this moment, Li Xiaoyi pushed open the door and walked in, with a bit of anger on his face. When the middle-aged man saw this, he couldn't help but be slightly taken aback. Where is the person? Master Zhao. Then David shied away because he had something to do, so he didn't come at all. Li Xiaoyi lowered his head and said ashamedly. Not coming. The middle-aged man was very surprised, and then asked Li Xiaoyi, did you tell him my identity? No, Li Xiaoyi waved his hands again and again, Master Zhao didn't say anything, how dare I expose Master Zhao's identity so easily, I just reminded him that he was a big man from Kyoto, but David still shied away. It's unreasonable, this kid is too crazy, you must know how many dignitaries in the capital want to see our pavilion master, our pavilion owner has no time, this kid actually shies away. When Xiao Li heard this, he was immediately furious. Interesting, a little interesting, the middle-aged man was not angry, but laughed. Since he doesn't come, let's go find him. The middle-aged man got up, and then said to Xiao Li, don't be too bad, go buy some gifts, after all, it's the first time to visit someone's house as a guest. Pavilion master, that kid doesn't give you face, you still go to his house. Xiao Li said in surprise. Just go if you tell me, don't worry about the rest. The middle-aged man said with a cold expression on his face. Xiao Li was too frightened to speak, and hurried to prepare gifts. Xiaoyi, who is this David, please tell me about it. The middle-aged man asked Li Xiaoyi. Li Xiaoyi could only tell the middle-aged people what he knew. It really is a newborn calf who is not afraid of tigers. He caused trouble in the Jiangbei provincial capital. Now he has reached out to the capital, and even the Qin family boy has been killed. He has the courage and strength, and he is a good seedling. The middle-aged man laughed. Master Zhao, you said that David killed the Qin family in the capital. Li Xiaoyi was slightly surprised. It seems that you, the pavilion owner of the Jiangbei Provincial City Protector Pavilion, are incompetent. Then David is Qin Feng who killed in the provincial capital. You don't even know. The middle-aged man looked at Li Xiaoyi and said. This time, Li Xiaoyi was scared to death, and the cold sweat on his forehead instantly flowed down. Master Zhao, forgive me, this is indeed the villain's oversight. Li Xiaoyi hurriedly pleaded guilty. Okay, what's the use of knowing it? Can you take care of David or Qin Feng? The middle-aged man waved his hand. This sentence can be regarded as poking into Li Xiaoyi's heart. He is so useless as the pavilion owner of the Dharma Protector Pavilion. He can't even control the wealthy family in the provincial capital, let alone the children of the wealthy family from Kyoto. There is a saying that people are more dead than people, and goods are thrown away. They are both the pavilion masters of the Dharma Protector Pavilion, but this is the pavilion owner of the Kyoto Dharma Guardian Pavilion. Even 10 Li Xiaoyi may not be able to match the power and status. Li Xiaoyi, the servant next to him, should be respectful. Soon, that Xiao Li bought a gift, and Li Xiaoyi personally drove the car and took the two to the villa where David lived. Mr. Chen, then Pavilion Master Li is here again. A guard reports to David. This Li Xiaoyi really doesn't give up. David felt helpless, let him wait in the living room. This time, David didn't go to see Li Xiaoyi for the first time, and let him wait for a while. Li Xiaoyi, the middle-aged man and Xiao Li were invited to the living room. After pouring a few cups of tea, the servants left. The three of them were sitting in the living room, watching the minutes pass by, but David was not seen. What is this guy doing? It's been more than 10 minutes and he hasn't come yet. Xiao Li looked at his watch and said impatiently. Don't worry, it will come naturally. The middle-aged man was in no hurry. He closed his eyes slightly and waited quietly. He seemed to know that David made them wait on purpose. Linger, these shoes are so beautiful today, and they're limited editions. No, the clothes I bought were just arrived, just this one. Sonia came back from shopping with Gu Linger, and the two of them were very happy to buy what they liked. But as soon as the two entered the door, they saw that there were two strangers in Li Xiaoyi, and they were immediately stunned. Master Li, when did you come? Gu Linger asked Li Xiaoyi. After all, Li Xiaoyi used to be the leader of Gu Linger, although Gu Linger has resigned now, but seeing Li Xiaoyi, he still seems a little cautious. Linger, we are here to see Mr. Chen. Li Xiaoyi said, and then pointed to the middle-aged man, this is Master Zhao from Kyoto. Master Zhao, this is the ancient granddaughter of Gu Wenchen. She used to be a general under my command, but now she has resigned. Li Xiaoyi smiled awkwardly and introduced each other. When Gu Linger heard that it was a big man from Kyoto, he immediately put down the things in his hand and hurried over to say, Hello, Master Zhao. Ha ha ha, it turned out to be an ancient granddaughter, it's a pleasure to meet, it's a pleasure to meet. The middle-aged man laughed and laughed. Is David not here? Sonia was a little puzzled, why David was not there when someone came to the family. Oh, Miss Su, Mr. Chen sent someone to tell us to wait, but it's been more than 10 minutes, and there's still no sign of Mr. Chen. Li Xiaoyi was slightly dissatisfied. Sonia is not stupid. She knows David very well. Since David asked Li Xiaoyi and the others to wait, she must have her own ideas. Since he said to wait, there must be something important to deal with. Pavilion Master Li, you all sit first, let's change clothes. Sonia doesn't want to get involved in the things here, what David does and how to do it, all Sonia needs to do is support. As for right and wrong, Sonia will not argue, she knows what a woman should do. Xiaoyi, this is... The middle-aged man looked at Sonia and asked Li Xiaoyi. Master Zhao, this is Mr. Chen's girlfriend, Miss Sonia. Li Xiaoyi hurriedly introduced. It turned out to be Mr. Chen's girlfriend, so disturbing. When the middle-aged man heard this, he hurriedly followed Sonia and nodded with a smile on his face. Sonia also smiled slightly, Mr. Zhao is very polite, you all sit first, if necessary, you can instruct the servants, let's change clothes. After that, Sonia took Gu Linger upstairs. Linger, what did a big man from Kyoto suddenly come to David for? Could it be because of that Qin Feng? After Sonia went upstairs, she asked Gu Linger worriedly. I don't know. If it's because of Qin Feng, I won't let David take the blame for me. I'll go down and admit that Qin Feng was killed by me. Gu Linger shook her head, but these people really came because of Qin Feng's affairs. Gu Linger wouldn't let David take the blame for her. Okay, let's take a look at it later. Sonia glanced downstairs, and then went into the room to change her clothes. At this moment, Xiao Li in the living room seemed a little irritable. It's too much, what's so great, it's so big, knowing we're coming, but it keeps us waiting for so long. Xiao Li said very unhappily. But this time, neither the middle-aged man nor Li Xiaoyi said a word. Since he's already here, he can only wait. After half an hour, David walked in slowly with Qi Feng and Lin Tianhu. Mr. Chen. Seeing David coming, Li Xiaoyi immediately got up and said. And that Xiao Li saw that David was only about the same age as himself, but he was full of style and a big air, and immediately scolded, Do you know how to be polite? Our pavilion master has been waiting for you here for half an hour, you know us how precious is the pavilion owner's time. Xiao Li's scolding immediately made Lin Tianhu and Qi Feng's faces turn cold, and the murderous aura from their bodies instantly permeated them, shrouding them directly towards Xiao Li. David just glanced at Xiao Li felt a chill in his heart, and his body trembled involuntarily. He seemed to see the abyss of H3LL in David's eyes, which made people shudder. Go back! The middle-aged man reprimanded. Xiao Li's mind was condensed, a trace of anger flashed on his face, but he still obediently retreated to the middle-aged man's side. He was so frightened by David's look that he trembled all over. Xiao Li felt too embarrassed. The fighting spirit in the young man's heart was aroused, and the eyes looking at David were even sharper and colder. Pavilion Master Li, it's been a long wait, I just finished some things. David said to Li Xiaoyi indifferently. Mr. Chen, this is what I told you, Kyoto. I'm Zhao Waoqi, the pavilion owner of the Dharma Protector Pavilion in Kyoto. It's really a blessing for Sansheng to meet such a young and promising young man as Mr. Chen. Without waiting for Li Xiaoyi's introduction, the middle-aged man stood up and introduced himself. When David heard it, Wei Wei was a little surprised. He didn't expect that the person who was looking for him would be someone from the Dharma Protector Pavilion in Kyoto. One must know that the power of the Dharma Protector Pavilion in Kyoto is very powerful. It can lead the entire country's Dharma Protector Pavilion. The Jiangbei provincial city, the Dharma Protector Pavilion, can only be regarded as a subordinate of other people's subordinates. Master Zhao has won the prize. David smiled lightly. This is not a prize for me. You are the first person who dared to kill the eldest son of the Qin family in Kyoto. Maybe you don't know what the Qin family represents in the capital, so you dare to kill that Qin Feng, you are not afraid of a newborn calf. Tiger. Zhao Wuji said with a slight smile. Upon hearing this, David frowned slightly, Are you here for the Qin family? What nonsense are you talking about? How could a Qin family invite our pavilion master? That Xiao Li said with a cold face. Zhao Waoqi waved his hand to tell Xiao Li to shut up, and then he smiled, If Qin Feng died, it won't alarm me. I'm here for you, I just don't want to see a good seedling and just died halfway. David heard what Zhao Waoqi meant, but he didn't care. I didn't think there was any danger in killing a Qin Feng, it's just a Qin family, I haven't paid attention to it yet. In the eyes of everyone, David's words are extremely arrogant. Boy, you really don't know the strength of the Qin family, right? The Qin family has no less than 10 grandmasters alone, and there are also 4 dead servants called the 4 great kings. Qin Xiaoqing, the patriarch of the Qin family, is now in retreat. When you reach the strength of the 7th rank grandmaster, you can just pick one out, and I'm afraid it will crush you into scum. Xiao Li looked at David with disdain. David looked at that Xiao Li slowly, and said coldly, You think the Qin family is strong, that's because your own strength is trash. You, Xiao Li was angry and wanted to attack David, but was stopped by Zhao Waoqi. Mr. Chen, I know that you killed Zhang Zhengzhong, became famous in the Jiangbei provincial capital, killed Zhang Zheng at the martial arts gathering, defeated Qin Feng, and made Jiangbei Jiangnan look at you with admiration, and now the Bai family has thrown you out too. Olive branch, but you have to remember that our country in Daxia is more than 10,000 miles away, and Jiangbei is just a corner of it. Muxia will be destroyed by Lin Feng. If Qin Xiaoqing is cleared, even the Bai family can't keep you. Zhao Waoqi looked at David, seemingly persuading, but he was actually threatening. You investigate me. David frowned, his face a bit gloomy. Investigation. Zhao Waoqi smiled lightly. I want to know who. Why do I need to investigate? Speak directly about your intentions. David had no interest in following Zhao Waoqi around. Okay, I hope you can join our law enforcement pavilion. You must know that the rise and fall of the country is the responsibility of everyone. You are now at the right time to contribute to the country. Join the law enforcement pavilion. I can give you the best treatment, and you killed Qin. As for Feng, I will block it for you, so that the Qin family will not trouble you. What do you think? Zhao Wuji asked with a face. I have already told Pavilion Master Li that I will not join the law enforcement pavilion. I still have my own work to do. I also hope Pavilion Master Zhao will not kidnap me with morality and national righteousness, because it is useless to me. David said calmly. If you join the Dharma Protector Pavilion, I can open up all the secrets of the Dharma Guardian Pavilion to you, and make you a great master in a very short period of time. What do you think? Zhao Waoqi did not give up and still promised David the conditions. Grandmaster. David smiled coldly. It seems that Pavilion Master Zhao's information is not very well informed. Don't you know that the wild wolf of the Qin family was also killed by me? Decay is a great master. What are you bragging about? The Qin family's wild wolf is powerful. I'm not an opponent. How could you kill him? It's just the Bai family who helped you out. Don't put money on your own face. Seeing David say this, Xiao Li sneered. The news that Zhao Waoqi got really suspected that the Bai family secretly helped David. Otherwise, how could David be easily killed by a great master? Are you bragging? David's face turned cold, and suddenly a terrifying breath broke out from the whole person, and this breath went directly towards that Xiao Li. Feeling this breath, Zhao Wuji's face was startled, his body shook slightly, and a powerful breath burst out from his body to resist. But even so, Xiao Li was pressed down on one knee by David's breath, and his breathing became rapid. If it wasn't for Zhao Waoqi's resistance, Xiao Li would have vomited blood by now. David took back his breath and looked at Xiao Li, who was kneeling on one knee coldly. As I said, what you think is strong is not worth mentioning in the eyes of others, because your strength is too rubbish. This time, Xiao Li didn't refute or get angry, but looked at David with horror in his eyes. The frustration in his heart made Xiao Li's face flush. Zhao Waoqi looked at David in surprise, and finally sighed. After all, I still underestimated Mr. Chen. He has such strength at such a young age, and his future is limitless. It's a pity, it's a pity. Everyone has their own aspirations. I also hope that Pavilion Master Zhao will not embarrass me, but if there is any difficulty in the Protector Pavilion, I will be obliged by David to use my place. David didn't want to join the Law Enforcement Pavilion because he was too restrained, and he still had a lot of things to do. He wants to go to Wuming Island, and to find out his life experience. He wants to know whether his biological parents are still alive. Okay, with what Mr. Chen said, after I go back, I will try my best to deal with you and the Qin family. During this time, you can rest assured that the Qin family will not come to you. They will wait for Qin Xiaoqing to clear customs. Make a decision later. Zhao Wuji said. Then I would like to thank Pavilion Master Zhao. If I have time to go to Kyoto, I will definitely ask Pavilion Master Zhao for a few cups. David smiled lightly. Ha ha ha, No problem, I'll be waiting for you anytime. Zhao Wuji said with a smile. Just when Zhao Wuji was about to leave, he suddenly remembered something, looked at David and said, I heard that the Swanya Valley in the southwest has some festivals with Mr. Chen. Well, I just killed a few people in Swanya Valley. David nodded. Damn it, this Swanya Valley is getting more and more excessive. I am arranging people to investigate this Swanya Valley. These guys have already reached out to ordinary people. Now Southwest has reported many missing girls. Moreover, many people in the Southwest Protectorate Pavilion were killed for no apparent reason. I suspect that it was Swanyuega who did it. Zhao Waoqi said angrily with a look of anger on his face. Zhao Waoqi's words reminded David of the time when he just killed Zhang Zhengzhong and Master Buhuo. At that time, there were many girls imprisoned in the Zhang family's villa, and there were many corpses of girls buried in the hillside not far away. To tell the truth from Pavilion Master Zhao, I was planning to go to the southwest and meet the Swanya Valley. If it wasn't for the delay of Qin Feng's affairs, I might have arrived in the southwest now. David said truthfully. When Zhao Waoqi heard this, his heart suddenly became overjoyed. It's so good. After I go back, I will arrange for people to come to Jiangbei to find Mr. Chen, and then go to the southwest together. With Mr. Chen to follow, I can rest assured. Yet. David nodded. Anyway, if the people from the Dharma Protector Pavilion didn't go, he would go there himself, so it's better to be a good friend. After Zhao Waoqi and the others left, Lin Tianhu said a little indignantly, Mr. Chen, that kid is really cheap, you should teach him a lesson. Okay, let's go practice. David smiled lightly. After Lin Tianhu and Qi Feng also left, Sonia and Gu Linger ran downstairs. David, are these people here to arrest you? Sonia asked David worriedly. David shook his head and smiled lightly, no, don't worry. David, then Qin Feng was killed by me. If the people from the Guardian Pavilion want to arrest you, I will explain it to them, and I will never let you take the blame for me. Gu Linger said firmly. Okay, don't think about it, I said no, and Qin Feng deserves to die, if you kill it, you will kill it. David smiled, and then continued, what about the things you shop for? Let me appreciate it. What do you appreciate? The leopard print underwear that Linger bought, do you want to appreciate it? You've seen it all anyway, don't care to watch it again. Sonia looked at David with a playful face. Sonia, what are you talking about? Gu Linger's face turned red. Cough cough, David coughed twice and shook his head again and again, don't look at it, I have to teach Lin Tianhu and the others to practice. David hurriedly ran out, the woman's heart was needled at the bottom of the sea, David really didn't know what the woman was thinking. Knowing that the Qin family would not be in trouble for the time being, David brought Sonia and Gu Linger back to Horindal. For the sake of practice, Lin Tianhu and Qi Feng accompanied him. After all, Horindal is David's home. He can't always stay in the provincial capital. Sonia also wants to accompany Reuben, and Gu Linger also happens to accompany Gu Wenshan. After a few days in Horindal, as long as there are medicinal materials in the Yaoangfu, they will continue to send them to David. Song Zud also heard good news. The mine has been excavated for more than 10 meters, and the stones that David needed have been exposed. However, the amount is very small now, and the amount is large. Song Zud will send a car to David. Under the guidance of David, Lin Tianhu and Qi Feng have grown by leaps and bounds, and with the addition of medicinal herbs, now Qi Feng has no rivals in the entire Jiangbei. Mr. Chen, where are you? On this day, David was listening to music leisurely in Pine Bay when Bai Zhantang called in. I'm back in Horindal. David said. There is someone from the Dharma Protector Pavilion in the capital, saying that they are going to the southwest with Mr. Chen. Bai Zhantang asked. Yes, bring them to Horindal, let's set off together. David hung up the phone. Soon, Bai Zhantang brought a group of more than a dozen people to the Pinarist villa area in Horindal, and parked the car in front of David's villa. At this time, David was lying on the reclining chair, enjoying a rare leisure time. Mr. Chen, Captain Su of the Dharma Protector Pavilion in Kyoto is here, under the order of Pavilion Master Zhao. Bai Zhantang walked in front of David, bowed slightly and said. Since David killed the wolf and Qin Feng, Bai Zhantang's attitude towards David has become more respectful. David nodded and sat up. At this time, a man in his 30s with an indifferent face and a short head came over, gave David a slight look, and then did not look sideways or look at David. With a glance, I have been ordered by the pavilion master to pick you up to go to the southwest. We are short on time and need to leave immediately.